wake up in the morning, I go to my job, I come home, I eat dinner, and then I sit myself down in front of this laptop to talk about the cozy corner of cinema. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode number 140 being recorded on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 7:19 p.m. This is not live. This is live when I'm speaking it, but when you're listening to this, it could be at any time. You could be listening to this in 10 years if this is still available. And you can go, my gosh, on December 2nd, 2024, which was a Monday at 7:19, this episode was recorded. So great, we have that for the archives, and now we can continue on. It's freezing out. My gosh, man. I woke up this morning. I go out there, and the car it's got so much frost on it. The car's parked outside, so I got to keep that heat on overnight. I get put on that automatic car starter in the morning, get the hot coffee, sit in the car for a second, and then go on and go forth, man. Somebody was saying that you can't have the car on for too long in the morning. It's not good for the engine or something like that. That could have been total nonsense. That could be one of those facts that you just never check up on because you go, oh, it sounds true. Which at that point wouldn't even make it a fact. It would just make it a lie. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But make sure you're heating up your cars, man. You gotta give them time to warm up a bit. If you're a part of the world like I am, where the temperatures are dropping, I love this weather, man. I love it. It was great, man. I went to the cinema the other night and stepped out into the lobby just for a second. And it was snowing out, and I said, "My gosh, man, that's crazy." I hope the road's gonna be okay to drive home. And then by the time we got out of the cinema, the snow was gone. So that's definitely a prelude to what's gonna be happening forward in the next coming weeks, next couple months. And as a prelude as well, let's talk about we've listened to this podcast, listened to an interview with Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe is a personality. He was host of that show Dirty Jobs, which I think I've seen a little bit of. But anyways, he was talking about his mother. His mother is 80 years old, and every day she wrote. Every day she wrote, and at the age of 80, she had, or maybe she's older than 80, whatever. She's written 4 books in that time since she was 80, and 3 of them are bestsellers. And my gosh, if that isn't inspirational, man, then you better be checking your pulse to make sure you're alive, man, because anybody telling you it's too late to do something, it's total nonsense, man. If you want to go out there, you want to write, you want to direct, you want to paint, it ain't too late for that, man. Now, you got to be realistic with some of this, man. Now, if you're 95 years old and you say you want to be a kickboxing heavyweight champion, I wouldn't recommend that. I think, maybe be better off painting or something like that. But if you want to be a filmmaker, man, if you want to go out there and direct, the next great American film, man, it ain't going to be happening by sitting here all day. By going out and by doing it, by putting in the time necessary, by meeting up with like-minded people. I mean, we're at an age now, the internet, it's so easy to connect with any kind of creative types in the internet. You go to your area, you're like, hey, I'm looking for actors, or I'm looking for people to collaborate with, or hey, you're looking for short scripts, short screenplays, looking for maybe plays to adapt, and but the important thing is actually have a resume, a good body of work to back yourself up on. Because I was listening to I think, what was it? It was oh gosh, who the hell was it? I don't mean to swear. I apologize. It was. I think it was Bill Friedkin. Maybe it was Bill Friedkin. I was talking about that Sorcerer episode from the movie podcast. I think he was saying he wrote something odd like 12 screenplays and couldn't sell any of them. And this dude had 12 screenplays to sit on, man. So, it's what I'm saying that before. If you're sitting there and you're trying to type your screenplay, you're trying to write your novel, and you're like, oh man, these filmmakers, they're making all these movies, they're writing all these, they're going to the big leagues, man. You can't compare yourself to anybody else. You gotta just do it, man. You think these things happen overnight? Probably not. And if they do happen overnight, they probably aren't very good. So focus on your craft. Focus on what it is you want to do. It's never too late, man, to follow your dreams. And it's just really, you just gotta be consistent with it, man. You gotta really keep at it. If you want to learn how to play guitar, man, well, you ain't gonna be learning how to play the guitar by, just watching videos about it. What do? Well, you can't afford a guitar. Well, how do you get the money to get a guitar? Okay, well, maybe you don't have a job. Maybe you get a job for that. It's all about just finding the ways that if you're truly passionate about something, that you're gonna find a way to do it, man. And that's really what it's all about, is just being focused on your dreams, on whatever it is you want to accomplish, man. In this case, because it's the Cozy Corner of Cinema, we're focused on the arts. So you want to be a filmmaker, you want to be a musician, you want to be a writer, you want to be a painter, you want to be whatever, man. It starts with you, and it's easy to say that, and it's easy to say, oh, I'll get it done someday. Oh man, hey, this weekend I think I want to go and drink beer and stare at the wall, and if that's what you want to do, then God bless you. That's your life, and if you're happy doing it, then it's inappropriate for me or anybody else to tell you how to live your life, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. But man, those screenplays ain't gonna write themselves. And then I look back, and I'm knee deep in a project right now, and it's coming along great. And some of this dialogue I'm reading back, I'm like, man, that was really good. And some of it I'm going, oh boy, that's pretty rough. I got to change that. And I'm not gonna let that file sit there. I'm gonna work on it, and I have been working on it, and it's coming out, I think, pretty well. But there's always room for improvement. So that is just part of the dream, man. You got to put in the work to get the good results. Doesn't mean you'll automatically get, success or fame or anything like that. I don't want fame. Forget about that, man. You kidding me? Screw that. I don't want to be famous. Hell no, man. I just want to write. I want to write. I want to watch films, man. I want to read books, and that's what I'm doing, man. That's what I'm doing in my life. Somebody says, "What are you doing with your life?" I say, "I'm living the dream, man. You kidding me? I'm writing screenplays. I'm watching films. I'm reading these books, man. I have 1,000 ideas in my head. It's just finding the time to get them all done, balancing my own life. People whom I find very important to me, whom I want to spend the time with, and I choose to divvy up my time accordingly, not to be a hermit, man. And if that works for some people, and some people it doesn't. I always like Bukowski's way of thinking, where don't try. And it's great. Bukowski's such a fascinating man. I just watched a documentary recently on William S. Burroughs. I think it was Burroughs. Who wrote On the Road? Was that him? Gosh, you know what? Or no, I'm sorry, it's Kerouac, not Burroughs. What? Oh, you know what? Actually, I think what it was. Yeah, it was Jack Kerouac. I think I'm thinking of Burroughs because I saw the trailer for Luca Guadagnino's. I'm sorry, his new film coming out, Queer, with Daniel Craig, which is based off of William S. Burroughs' book. I don't really know much about Burroughs. I've not read any of his work, so I'm not sure how close the film's gonna follow that work. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It's gotta kind of stand on it. So that'll be seen next week. I think it comes out here. Yeah, next week come out here. It's crazy, man. They have Challengers earlier this year. It's a pretty good film. I like that actually quite a bit. And it's got another film out. It's crazy. We had last year Yorgos Lanthimos, who had like Poor Things like right at the end of the year, and then Kinds of Kindness came out a couple months ago, which that kind of got forgotten about. That really kind of didn't get a whole lot of talk. And it's funny. I'm thinking about when it comes to contemporary films, it's surprising how many aren't getting proper releases or aren't even getting released at all. I noticed it even before. I guess even before streaming was becoming a primary thing. Where when I say a primary thing, I mean the dominating field. I would assume. When I ask somebody, you recommend a film to somebody, and Joe Schmo is going to be asking, oh, well, where can I stream it? It's like, brother, if you're going to be only watching films or you're streaming, you're cutting yourself out from so much good stuff. But a lot of them, they don't care. They just want to watch something quick and easy, and that's fine. But that's why you got to, be careful with your recommendations, because it's sort of just like, you're going to take this recommendation seriously, you're just going to toss it out the window, in one ear at the other. You're going to watch, whatever new Netflix show, and, it's fine, nothing wrong with that, but man, I ain't going to be investing the time to try to find something that's going to suit your taste if you ain't going to take it seriously. It's just not going to happen. That's why every film people recommend me, 9.5 out of 10 times I take it seriously. The only time I don't, it's like if I know there's got to be more than a reasonable chance I'm not going to like it. There's got to be some kind of contextual reason. I'm not a superhero movie guy, so if somebody says, oh, you got to go see the new I don't know, a superhero movie out, Deadpool or Venom. Like, hey man, that's for an audience. God bless them. They enjoy it. That's not for me. I'm not gonna watch those movies because I know I'm not gonna like them. I'm not disparaging those films, but recommendations like those, I'm not gonna take too seriously. I'm good. It's not gonna happen. But if someone's like, hey, I saw this movie on Netflix. It was actually pretty good. I think you'd like it. I'll go, okay. I'll keep an eye on it. Will I watch it immediately? Probably not, but it will be seen. There are films that I've gotten back to with people months later, and I go, hey man, you recommended me this film, and it was actually pretty good, so thank you for the recommendation. And they go, what? I can't believe I don't even remember recommending that to you. But I do. I got a whole I got a whole list of films I got to watch. But anyways, what I'm talking about is contemporary films that really aren't getting special releases, really, or if they come to Blu-ray, that's one thing. But a lot of times they'll just go to DVD, or they won't even go to DVD. I'll look on Canopy, man, and I'll see some of the films that are on there recently added, and I'm like, man, I just saw this film, or like, man, this really kind of came and went. That unless you get like a big buzz surrounding it, the films kind of really just come and go. If it's a Netflix original or if it's one of these, they get a little bit of attention, but ultimately it's like, man, there's some films I've seen pop up that I'm just like, man, no one's talking. Unless there's people who are actively bringing this film up, no one's talking about this. I was looking at Brian Sauer. Brian Sauer is a very smart man. Obviously check out Just the Discs, very very good podcast show. And he was talking about two films this year. Dee Dee that got, I think, a burn on demand. Actually, maybe not. Maybe Dee Dee wasn't burn on demand, but it definitely got a very quiet Blu-ray. Quiet in that I didn't even hear it get announced. I saw that he had it, and I said, okay. And then Between the Temples, which I talked about a couple months ago, the new Nathan Silver film, which just has DVD, doesn't have Blu-ray, and it's just like, man, unless unless you're in the know, unless you're talking to people about these kinds of films, these films are just gonna slip through the cracks, and they're gonna be, just fall right through it, man. And it's really a shame, man, what's going on with that. I know that, um, at this point, physical media, I think it's, what I would guess is primarily a collector's sort of deal, in that people who actively collect physical media, and not like Joe Schmo, picking things up, because DVDs are still a dominant, physical media, film media that is being sold. I think a lot of times, it's crazy. I see stuff pop up where it's streaming months before it even gets a physical release. So a lot of those people are like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get the release. I'm just gonna watch it on there." And it's like, "Hey, man, on one hand, you can't blame them. On another hand, it's like, well, for one, what's the incentive of even buying it anymore unless you're looking for those special features, unless you want that to have it yourself? But two, as well, it's like the theatrical market is like, well, man, what's the incentive to go to the cinema? And if they're just going to wait, it's like, hey, man, can you blame them? I can't, and that's a shame. I popped on, I went to go watch something on Hulu last week. And first thing that popped up, watch Alien Romulus now. And I'm thinking, I just saw this movie a couple months ago, and it's already streaming on Hulu. And the Blu-ray at the time of recording this isn't even out yet, and that's just crazy, man. Let alone movies that just go to streaming to rent. I mean, the window on this, it's non-existent, man. If I look right here, I'm gonna open up just Prime Video. Let me just see what's even on here. I think films that I just saw are already on here. Let's see here. I don't really like the layout of Amazon's app. So let's see, Smile 2. Well, I just saw that a month ago. Here, I just saw that a month ago. Conclave, I just saw that a month ago. I think Beetlejuice is already on Max. Let's see here. Some stuff like A Different Man, I get it. I did just see that fairly recently, but I get it. That's not a wide release film. I'm talking about wide release films, man. If they want to release them simultaneously in terms of maybe a film that only goes to a couple hundred theaters and they release it on demand. Or release it streaming. I get that, but big, 2,000 plus released films. It's like, what? What's the incentive to go to the cinema, man? People just wait for it. It doesn't feel like when you have such a short window, the value of a film like that almost feels like it goes down. It's like, oh, well, I can just wait a couple weeks and then it's already there, man. When Joker Folie à Deux came out, I think that was on ready to rent like a couple weeks after it came out, because it didn't do too well at the box office. It didn't get very good reviews. I guess I'm in the minority. I thought it was pretty good, but it's just wild. It's just like the commodity of these new films. It's sort of just like, man, that waiting period is gone, because like, oh, I missed it. It's still in theaters right now, but I can just see it at home, and it's just crazy, man. Some people don't like the cinema, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. That's their right. Some people can't afford to go to the cinema, or if you have a family, it makes more sense to just maybe rent it at home for $20. I totally get all that. I'm only speaking for myself. I will always go to the cinema as long as there is a cinema. I will always see films at the cinema. Nothing is going to change that for me, man. When all that COVID stuff was going on, once that cinema opened, man, an hour away, you better believe I was going to that cinema. Are you kidding me? I was seeing new release films. I was seeing watching older films, doing anything I can just to get to the cinema, man. It's really just a wonderful, wonderful experience out. And that I feel like if you're not going to, I keep saying, hey, take a shot. Well, don't take a shot. That's not very good. You may hurt the hell out of your liver. But how many times I say the word cinema this episode? I mean, this is the cozy corner of it after all. But the actual physical place of cinema, it's almost like if you're not in the know on general kind of film discussion or film kind of recommendations from people who are talking about these, and you're not going to see them in theaters at the cinema, then they really do just slip through the cracks. I mean, there are so many films coming out now, not solely just theatrically, but a lot of films that are only being put on streaming services or are made for streaming services or get very very limited releases or quiet releases or anything like that. I mean, unless they get a big push or there is something to really kind of incentivize the theatrical experience, then unless you're a big budgeted film, that you really are just gonna slip through the cracks. I mean, it is great seeing this past the box office this past weekend. Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2 are all doing very well financially, and all three of them are getting good reviews to my knowledge. I know. I think Moana's getting good reviews. I didn't even look. Not that I'm focused on that, but I'm just saying it's like, okay, these are critically. I mean, these are financially successful films. So apparently critically acclaimed films. Actually, you know what? I don't like to normally use Rotten Tomatoes, but just for the sake of the context of this conversation, I just want to take a look really quick. I'm going to look at the critic score. The audience score is fine. But yeah, Wicked, what we got? 89%, Moana 2, 64%, and Gladiator 2, 71%. Those are all three very well reviewed films. And actually, even the audience score on them is Wicked has a 96 audience score, Moana 2 has an 87 audience score, and Gladiator 2 has an 83 audience score. So that's just very cool, man, that all three of those are pulling in big numbers. The people are making the effort to leave the house to go to the cinema. They're making the choice to go to the cinema, and that's just really excellent, man. You can't let them phase, man. I think that was one of the big things during COVID a couple years ago. People were talking about, local cinemas kind of shutting down, or some didn't get reopened, or some delayed opening, and that was frightening, man. That was frightening to see some of those totally shutter. There was one cinema nearby that. We only lost one, but I don't even know if that was related to COVID or not. I think there were already even problems as is, and then that one just completely shuttered. And I was seeing photos of them taking the screens down and stuff, and the auditoriums being empty. And I'm just looking at these pictures. And I'm like, man, I remember seeing so many films. They're just crazy how quickly that can really just pass, and how I think places really hold a lot of memories. And just all the memories in this room, people who saw these just really great films that changed their lives, or they had a really great experience on a date or something, or maybe they didn't have a good experience. Somebody was talking and made them upset. I don't know, just good or bad memories, man. They really fill the room, and they live in the room. And now that when you take that out, it's just like, man, that's gone. But anyways. Gosh, man, I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but you get the idea. Yeah, so just keep an eye out, man. I mean, when it comes to like the end of the year stuff, there's gonna be plenty of lists, people talking about, oh, this film you didn't see this year, this film you didn't see this year. I've seen a lot of films this year that I don't think is getting a lot of attention, is not getting a lot of talk. I'm also seeing a lot of films this year that I think are actually quite good. That I think of, when Megalopolis and then Joker Folie à Deux came out, people were talking about the worst films of the year. I'm like, man, I've seen a lot of films this year, man. I've seen a lot of new releases. I've seen some bad films, man. I'm not gonna mention names because, hey, man, I'm not gonna deter somebody from watching something I didn't like. But man, like if I don't, the worst of the year, neither of those by a long shot, man. They at least did something, whether they worked or didn't work for you. I mean, and I actually quite like Megalopolis. I thought that was actually a really, really enjoyable film. Really kind of swinging with everything that Coppola's got, and that's apparently coming to 4K. That's a Lionsgate title, so I don't know when though. There's no date for that right now, but that'll be picked up. And I wish I had actually seen that again in the cinema, but the opportunity did not present itself, so I'll have to wait for the 4K for that. But that's alright. It'll go in the collection along with the other Coppola 4Ks, but. Yeah, now's the time to be kind of looking, and plus also with the Oscars happening in a few months, a lot of these films are going to get re-released. They're going to, in January and February. Because I always forget the Oscars is in March, I think, February. I don't know, man. doesn't really concern me. I don't really follow them too closely. It's just fun to look at, fun to see what gets nominated. But I don't take it too seriously, man. It's just the films that I like in a year, they're not getting nominated, man. I mean, there's just so many like great kind of quieter films that are really stand out. I mean, I saw one film recently that it was fine. It'll probably get a lot of Oscar buzz and probably but it's just I'm watching. I'm like, it's not really doing much for me. But then there's just other films that I was talking about before, films like Mountains or In the Summers or I'm trying to look at like some other ones here. Or like I mentioned before, Between the Temples or Good One. These are really some of my favorites of the year that really, unless somebody is talking about them directly, they're probably gonna fall through the cracks. They're not getting any Oscars. They're probably not getting any Oscar nominations and probably no Oscars. It's fine. But those films, those really solid. I hate to even use the word gems. That's such a subjective and broad term. But these kinds of films that really do slip through the cracks are the ones that I think need to be kind of propped up more so than some of the Oscar stuff that I'm sure is good in the moment, but I even think back to like last year, and I'm struggling to remember what was nominated. I wonder if I can remember. I'm trying to think. There were 10. So what the hell was nominated? We had Anatomy of a Fall. We had Barbie. We had Oppenheimer. We had Zone of Interest. We had Maestro. We had Past Lives. Gosh, I think that might be where I throw in the towel. I'm not even going to try to sit here and think of the other ones. What the hell was nominated last year? Somebody probably knows all of the nominations. Oh, well, The Holdovers. I remember that one. It's like 7. Okay, what else I missed here? I missed Poor Things. I missed American Fiction. I missed Killers of the Flower Moon. And I actually like those. Well, Killers of the Flower Moon is great, and then American Fiction is good, and Poor Things is pretty good. So that was actually a pretty decent year overall. That was actually pretty good, honestly. I think I like almost all the films nominated, so that's cool. I'm curious what this year is. People are already talking about nominations and all that. It'll be fun to listen back to this if you listen to this in the future and you go, "Oh, Dan, it's this film, it's this film." Maybe you already probably make predictions. I think people are already kind of predicting like Nora is probably going to get nominated, or some of the people were saying Sing Sing. That could be interesting. That's kind of a wild card. I don't really have any. I'm not really good at guessing these sorts of things. I can maybe guess a couple things here and there, but like Best Picture, I have no idea. Maybe Conclave will probably get nominated. I really don't know. But I'm sure there's also stuff that needs to come out that'll be more widely talked about then that people will bring up more so than specific performances. Maybe Maria could get nominated because of Pablo Larraín. Although I don't know if Jackie or Spencer got nominated for Best Picture, but I'm just assuming that Angelina Jolie will probably get nominated for Best Actress because it's a big kind of tour de force. True story. Putting on an accent, doing the whole big kind of thing, and that'll probably get some talk. Oh man, we could see how wobbly this desk is, man. This is like everything's shaking all about here. This is crazy as all hell. Good lord. But anyways, man. So yeah, look up, just keep an eye out for a lot of the films that are going to be talked about in a lot of these general conversations, a lot of these discussions, and keep an eye out, making sure these films do not fall through the cracks, do not slip through the cracks. And funnily enough, I was talking about films I had been wanting to see this year. I'd recently watched. I think I'm pretty close to having seen a good. I won't say all, but I have seen a good amount of Clint Eastwood's directed films. And I recently watched Heartbreak Ridge, and actually, I pull up a list here. I think it'd be fun to kind of go through, see which ones I've seen. Get a sip of this beverage while I pull up a list here. We can see what I got from then until now. Let's see. Okay, I'm talking about his features, not sequences, and not little shorts. Or at least, like, I'm looking like the Beguiled, the storyteller. That was like a 5-minute thing. I think he did like a promotional thing of because Don Siegel directed that instead. But anyways, what do we got here? So I've seen Play Misty for Me. I've seen High Plains Drifter, Breezy, The Eiger Sanction, The Outlaw Josie Wales, The Gauntlet. I have not seen Bronco Billy. I've seen Firefox. I've not seen Honky Tonk Man. I've seen Sudden Impact, Pale Rider, Heartbreak Ridge. I've not seen Bird, White Hunter, Black Heart, or The Rookie. I've seen Unforgiven and A Perfect World. Have not seen Bridges of Madison County. I have seen Absolute Power. Have not seen Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil or True Crime. Have seen Space Cowboys, Bloodwork, Mystic River, Million Dollar Baby, Flags of Our Fathers. Have not seen Letters from Iwo Jima. I have seen Changeling and Gran Torino. Have not seen Invictus or Hereafter. Have seen J. Edgar, Jersey Boys, American Sniper, Sully. Have not seen 1517 to Paris. Have seen The Mule, Richard Jewell, and Cry Macho. And his newest film, bizarrely enough, is getting solid reviews, is getting talked about as possibly his last film. And Warner Brothers, and the film, by the way, is Juror Number 2. And Warner Brothers are burying it. They're not even putting it on Max right now. At the time of this recording, it's gotten only a handful of theaters in the country. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it was less than 100. I mean, I don't get that at all. I mean, I think perhaps they thought that his last couple may have been maybe the last one he was going to do. I don't think they really expected him to do another film. The man is 93 years old. How old is he now? He's not 93. Well, he's definitely getting up there for sure. He's definitely in his 90s. And the man is still going, and that's wonderful. And it's great that, because, some of his later work, I think it's definitely hit or miss. I mean, Eastwood's a director who doesn't have anything he needs to prove anymore. He's already, just some of the films I mentioned right there. High Plains Drifter and Unforgiven, and I love Sudden Impact. I'm a big fan of that film. The man's got nothing to prove. He's a certified legend. But the fact he's still going is great to see. But his later films definitely start to have a lot of that same. They start to feel the same. They have a gray color palette that I'm not crazy about. And while there are good moments in some of these films, I like Richard Jewell a lot. I think that's probably about it when it comes to his 2010 and onward stuff. I think the only truly great film of the 2000s that he's done is Flags of Our Fathers, which I would say is one of his strongest. Everything else is kind of hit or miss. Some of the stuff like American Sniper and Sully, I do think those are good films. I don't think they're great films. And then stuff like the Jersey Boys and J. Edgar, I really kind of scratched my head at. I'm not really sure what we're doing there. But yeah, no, it's weird that they're burying Juror Number 2. I'm really interested in seeing it, man. I don't I know a little bit about it, but I've been kind of trying to see the last couple of his films theatrically. Not saying that, not to say I've seen the last one or anything like that, but I saw The Mule, Richard Jewell, and Cry Macho theatrically, so I kind of wanted to keep that going until he eventually did make his last film. And I would have liked to have seen this film theatrically, but it's just not going to happen. I think there was one theater playing it, 90 minutes away, and for that I couldn't justify it, but it is coming to Blu-ray in February, so that'll be watched when it's, hey man, once it's available to rent, I'll rent it. I don't even care. I just want to see the dang film, man. I think Clint Eastwood's just such a fascinating filmmaker, such a diverse number of films under his filmography. A lot of them you can pair together, but then there are a lot that, at least a decent amount, I would say, that I find so fascinating. I've talked about Perfect World before in the 1993 episode. I think that's just one of his most underappreciated. That's really, really excellent stuff, and I think it's one of his most emotional films. Greatly performance by Kevin Costner on that, and also Clint Eastwood acts alongside Laura Dern in that, and the kid as well. I don't know who plays the kid, T.J. Lowther. But that's a solid film that I think still has not quite been rediscovered in the way that, or at least discovered in terms of the talk of Clint Eastwood's directed films, in terms of his strongest films, because he followed up Unforgiven, which is one of his best films, not only that he directed, but let alone acted in, which is one of the best Clint Eastwood films. And you have that, which I think is really great, but isn't as brought up. But that's just some rambling for you. Anyways, the night's getting colder. My feet are getting cold, man. I need some dang slippers, man. Hopefully Santa Claus brings me a pair this year. If not, well, hey, Mr. Amazon will have to get them for me, I guess. But anyways, you guys take care. Remember what I said at the beginning of this episode. It is never too late to follow your dreams, man. To work on those screenplays, on those novels, on those music albums, of anything you want, man. The only person getting in your way is you. X out time whenever you can, every opportunity. Don't go crazy, but be devoted and be dedicated, man, because your dreams are not going to follow you. You got to follow them, my man. All right, that's all I got. So thank you guys for listening. Take care, and until next time.